Judge McBurney, I would be remiss if I did not ask, do you have any public response to the statements made by the foreperson?
So I don't think it'd be appropriate for me to respond directly. I think it's important for people to understand that the grand jurors took an oath, and that oath requires the grand jurors to maintain in confidence, keep secret, their deliberations. Full stop. That's the extent of their oath.
Okay. You heard it here first. And Judge McBurney, back in October, AJC columnist Bill Torpy wrote that, quote, "It seems the most contentious cases in Georgia have a common denominator, and it's you." He went on to note recent high-profile cases in which he'd been involved, including a challenge to Georgia's restrictive abortion law, and of course the special purpose grand jury. These were high-profile cases covered to some extent in political terms. Are there any steps that judges can take to depoliticize their proceedings?
No. No, there are, but first I appreciate the idea about letting air out of colleagues' tires. I may have a couple who have lower rides this evening when they head out. There are, and it's a focus on why we're in the courtroom, as opposed to some of the issues that partisans and frankly reporters want to inject into the proceedings. Sometimes, even though the subject matter is of great political interest, the legal issue is pretty dry and maybe obscure. What does void ab initio mean? That's what the Sister Song case was all about when I was dealing with it. What does that mean? And does a law that when it was passed was unconstitutional, arguably, under a then existing Supreme Court standard, does it persist after that Supreme Court standard changes? That's it. It wasn't about the rights of women or unborn, and people can try to inject that. But I think judges can work to make sure that when we're in court, we're focused on the legal reasons for being in court and not the political reasons. And it's easier said than done, but if you have litigators who are serious about their work and you have a judge who asserts herself at the beginning, this is what we're here about, and doesn't put up with nonsense of, well, I'm going to get to the legal issue, but first I have to pound my chest for a while about the social importance of this. All of which may be true, but we're not taking a poll in the courtroom. We're going to figure out, what does the law say, how is that law applied, and what are the consequences of how that law is applied. And again, easier said than done, but I know that my colleagues and I, when we do get cases that are going to attract media attention, we do try to establish up front that what's going on in court is focused on the law and not maybe some of the hubbub that people want to interject into it.
Now how do you try to establish that? What do you specifically do?
Well, one thing I can do is interrupt. So if someone gets up and starts taking us away from what the legal issues are, I can say that's not what I'm really interested in talking about. But even better than interrupting, I like to frame things at the beginning. So everyone is seated and there's a call to order. I acknowledge the importance of what we're talking about. I let everyone in the audience know that they're welcome to be here, but if they can't be here in a quiet and respectful way, they need to step outside. I've already talked to my deputies to be ready to get people outside. If they're going to hiss or cheer, this is not a UGA game. There will be no cheering or sobbing if you're a TCU fan. We are here to focus on the issues. And so if the judge frames it up front, this is what we're here to talk about. And what I'm interested in is hearing your view, Mr. Solicitor, and your view, Madam Counsel, on void ab initio. Talk to me about that. And this isn't the time to talk about the unborn or this or that. Go out on the courthouse steps and talk about that. But here, we're focused on the legal issues. Lawyers tend, not all, but most lawyers tend to say, okay, you've given an instruction, I will follow that instruction. And they're good at pushing boundaries, and judges are good at pushing back and reinforcing those boundaries. But if you frame the issue up front, here's what we're going to talk about. I have found in my several situations you described that by and large, the lawyers stick to it. It's harder once you get a witness on the stand, because witnesses, they like to go here and there, and lawyers are good at saying, well, what do you think about this? Oh, that's a dangerous question. And then they run with it. And it's not my job to interrupt the witnesses, but at least with the lawyers, judges have a good ability, if they take advantage of it, to frame the issue that is before the court legally as opposed to politically.